Palms West Hospital. I'm on the 3rd floor. There's some guy in here that's nuts. We're closed the door. We're scanning it. Okay, it looks like we cannot get him under control.
We had a Baker Act beat a staff member unconscious, now running around the building. And this could be nearly a fatality. This employee may not make it.
Palm Beach County deputies saying 33-year-old Stephen Scantlebury is facing charges of attempted murder after causing quite a scare here for hospital staff members and other patients. Now, what he did after he allegedly attacked this female nurse was all caught on camera. It's a video that's been circulating all over social media. A shirtless man, later identified as 33-year-old Stephen Scantlebury, in the middle of the road, moments after deputies say he attacked a nurse on Tuesday.
And I'm like, this is something like real is going on here. Like, it's not something you see every day.
18-year-old Logan Ashman, a Wellington resident, was driving along Southern Boulevard around 1 in the afternoon when he stumbled upon this chaotic situation.
What made me actually end up recording is when I seen the hospital patches on him. So I'm like thinking, like, did he just run out the hospital? What's going on? I look to my right, I see a bunch of nurses running also. In the video, you can see all the nurses running towards him too. So I'm like, what's going on?
Deputies are seen moving in closer and closer until the 33-year-old eventually stopped and was detained. Logan tells me he was shocked when he later discovered what this man apparently did to the female nurse, who is now in a fight for her life.
I feel really sorry, and I hope everything's doing well with her, and I hope everything goes good for her too.
Court records show the suspect lives in Wellington. We went to his house, but no one else was home to provide a comment. It's still unclear what happened inside the hospital and what may have set him off. At last check, he was currently undergoing medical clearance and will soon be booked into the county jail. In a statement, the hospital said the attack happened within a matter of seconds. Even some of the other staff members jumped in to try to help. Right now, they are helping deputies during this investigation. They're also providing emotional support for some of those staff members still shaken up by all of this. And of course, praying for the nurse's recovery.
The victim was flown here by Trauma Hawk to St. Mary's in critical condition. Investigators say the attacker essentially broke every bone in her face, and she'll likely lose the use of both of her eyes. Now, tonight, the big question remains here. Why was a Baker Act patient at a facility that's not designated for psychiatric holds, and could this nurse have been better protected? Well, we've been pushing for those answers, and this is what we know. Investigators say Scantlebury was under a Baker Act hold after showing signs of paranoia for days. But according to the National Alliance on Mental Illness, Palms West isn't one of Palm Beach County's 5 designated Baker Act facilities. So why was he here?
If he did not need medical attention, and for some reason these deputies took him to that facility knowing that this was not a designated facility, are they saying that there was no other beds anywhere in the county? That would be the first time I've ever heard of that, but I guess it's a possibility.
Palm Beach County's mental health system has struggled for years, especially after the Jerome Golden Center, a psychiatric hospital, closed in 2019. Just last month, commissioners approved $10 million to help build a new crisis center. But if bed space is the issue, that solution is still years away.
Let's say there were no other beds available, and this was just the nearest place to take him. Knowing that this was not a facility that could cope with a mentally unstable patient, then he shouldn't have been taken there.
A dangerous circumstance that left a nurse fighting for her life. Nurses union leaders say this wasn't just a fluke. Violence in hospitals is a growing issue.
It's a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, a lot of pressure to go into work every day, knowing that workplace violence will happen at some point. It's a part of the disease process for many patients.
But what if this nurse wasn't trained to handle a Baker Act patient at all?
And they end up in the emergency department, and the staff there are dealing with them the same way they would deal with any patient. And if they have a severe mental illness, the staff may not be equipped or trained to deal with them.
Dr. Daniel Bober takes in Baker Act patients every day in Broward County. He says training and resources make a huge difference.
They know how to diffuse confrontation. They have obviously certain physical environments they work in. They have access to, for example, panic buttons and things like that. So they are used to dealing with violent, aggressive patients.
Now, Now, Scantlebury is in jail facing an attempted murder charge, and hospital officials did confirm with us that they are not a Baker Act facility, but they said if a patient comes in with a medical issue and starts to show signs of mental health crisis, then they're able to do an assessment and determine if a hold is necessary. Now, it's not clear if that's what happened here. We did press them asking why Scantlebury was there in the first place, but due to patient privacy issues and laws, they're not able to release those details.
It was a sea of blue Sunday afternoon as nurses came together to support one of their own.
We are the ones who make a brighter day, so let's start giving.
Nearly 400 medical professionals from Palm Beach County and beyond gathered at Jerome Golden Center, standing in solidarity for Leela. The 67-year-old nurse was attacked during her shift at Palm West Hospital and brutally beaten by a patient identified as 33-year-old Stephen Scantlebury.
I personally don't even know Leela. I just think it's something that as a nurse, you know it's an issue, but it's not spoke about. And seeing that it happening in your own community to that extreme is absolutely heartbreaking.
To uplift Leela and her family and show that violence against healthcare workers will not be ignored, Crystal Morello came up with the idea for a rally.
I mean, this is the worst case scenario that I've ever seen. I brought it up to Burnett, and it just grew from there. I posted on Facebook. St. Mary's reached out to us by 8 o'clock in the morning, and it just went viral.
And the turnout was successful. Guests lit candles and prayed for the victim's physical and emotional healing. Her daughter, emotional.
Seeing all of you today, turning the world to her. Just keep her in your thoughts and prayers that she'll come out of this stronger than ever.
Dr. Sandra Rizzoldi traveled all the way from Tampa and says it's about time nurses be better protected.
And that there is so much violence against healthcare workers all the way from when they hit the door all the way to being on the floor. That means CNAs, EMTs out in the field.
Every one of us is affected when someone gets hurt. So our community is a very tight community. Nursing, we represent compassion, love, caring, and kindness.
The victim remains in the hospital fighting for her life. The suspect is being charged with attempted murder.
I'm outraged that the fact that this happened. This is something that could have been preventable. You know, it was easily preventable if people had taken the right precautions from the beginning.
The victim's relatives and their attorneys say 67-year-old Leelama Lal, a registered nurse, is in critical but stable condition at St. Mary's with a brain bleed after every bone was broken in her face.
1 second I'm sad, the other second I'm angry, and then it's just, why did this happen to her?
PBSO says Lal was severely beaten at Palms West Hospital in a third-floor room by a Baker Act patient. An attorney for the victim's family would like to know what security measures were in place inside the hospital to deal with Baker Act patients. 33-year-old Stephen Scantlebury of Wellington was arrested following the attack and is charged with attempted second-degree murder. This charge has been enhanced to a hate crime. The family's attorney says the reason for that is that during the attack, Scantlebury made ethnic slurs to Lal, including derogatory comments about people from India. The family's attorney is asking if Scantlebury should have been brought to Palms West in the first place when there are other hospitals designated specifically for Baker Act patients.
They don't train their employees how to de-escalate violent situations like this.
The victim's relatives say Lal will need surgery to repair her facial injuries, and she may even be permanently blind due to the attack.
And this is going to forever, change the rest of her future. And, she's 67. She has, with her health, a good at least 20 plus years left, and she shouldn't have to spend them the way she's going to have to spend them.
Now, the courtroom was packed today as experts, witnesses, and even Scantlebury's wife, Megan, took the stand. She defended him, saying he has never been violent in their 12 years of marriage. But prosecutors painted a very different picture, arguing that Scantlebury is both a danger to the community and a flight risk due to his ties to Canada, urging the judge to keep him in custody. Now, after the ruling, we spoke with the victim's daughter, and she says her family's still living in fear.
As far as Lal's condition, this is the most updated picture we have of her. She's regaining sight in her left eye, but her right eye is not looking as promising. There's also signs of neurological issues.
I didn't know what to do, so I had to call the police.
Newly released body camera video shows Palm Beach County deputies responding to a call on the morning of February 17th outside this Dunkin' in Wellington. Stephen Scantlebury, a husband and cheer dad, was acting paranoid and confused. A Dunkin' worker called 911.
He was sweating, he was already a little out of it, and he said, I need help, call 911, call 911. So immediately my mother called 911.
Scantlebury seemed calm while talking to deputies, but his mother, who deputies called to the scene, knew something was off.
She's saying the wife thinks he should be Baker acted. She thinks he's having some kind of mental health problem.
Yeah,
Right.
something's not right with his train of thought.
But deputies said their hands were tied.
We can't force him to go anywhere. He's clearly coherent. We just can't take everybody to the hospital because we think they need to get help. We have to know they need help.
Deputies arranged for a facility to call him the next morning, then left. Scantlebury reportedly walked about 1.5 miles to Palms West Hospital, where he was admitted with chest pains.
And that's when everything happened.
He began acting erratically, allegedly jumping off a CAT scan machine and running down the hall. Doctors eventually Baker acted him, but instead of being taken to a secure psychiatric facility, he was left in a regular hospital room without security. That's where police say he savagely beat 67-year-old nurse Leelama Lal, shattering nearly every bone in her face.
They failed the nurse number one, and they failed him. They failed his family. He's a good father.
Now, one of the biggest questions now is, would this all have happened if Scantlebury was just brought to a mental health facility in the first place? There is a problem with that. The guidelines for involuntary commitment under the Baker Act aren't exactly clear-cut. The person has to be a danger to themselves or others, but what that looks like in every case scenario is not clear.
No deficiencies. That was the finding of an inspection carried out by the Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration on HCA Florida Palms West Hospital following a brutal attack on nurse Leelama Lal. The report states the facility was in compliance with state safety regulations, meaning Palms West had the required policies and procedures in place to ensure safety and quality care, despite Stephen Scantlebury violently beating Leela, breaking essentially every bone in her face. Scantlebury was admitted to the hospital on February 18th for physical complaints. But while he was receiving care, he became a psychiatric patient as well. He was identified as a Baker Act case. However, Palms West is not one of Palm Beach County's Baker Act facilities.
They follow a lot of quantitative data. This is the worksheet that they have.
Dr. Sandra Rizaldi is a psychiatric nurse practitioner and founder of Nurses Against Violence. I asked her for her take on the report.
Historically, nurses and healthcare workers do not report violent attacks, or they don't report every detail or even any incidences that happen on the floors.
Now the question is there room for improvement to enhance security at Palms West or other HCA facilities? The hospital tells us they've already taken some steps. Just this week, they added a workspace for PBSO deputies in the emergency room. But healthcare professionals say more needs to be done.
There's no actual preventing programs to be able to be proactive to prevent violent attacks. This would include security, proper training. The training that they have is from a third-party entity.
Rizaldi says change starts with speaking up. She's encouraging workers to reach out to Congress about Senate Bill 1176. It would require the Department of Labor to address violence in the workplace regarding health care and social services. It's made little progress since being referred to a committee 2 years ago.
Just scared to be alone, so a lot of anxiety.
Dr. Cindy Joseph is now at a rehab hospital with her mother, Leelama Lal, a registered nurse who was attacked last month by a patient at Palms West. Every bone in her face was broken. Leelama Lal, who was moved this week from St. Mary's in West Palm Beach to a rehab hospital in Jacksonville, is going through 3 hours of physical therapy and speech therapy 7 days a week.
Does she have any memory of the attack that occurred at Palms West?
She doesn't have any memory of the attack. She remembers the day prior. She does remember what she did. She doesn't remember that morning of ever going to the hospital.
Joseph says her mother has regained sight in her left eye, but it's not clear if she'll regain sight in her right eye, which is swollen shut from facial reconstruction surgery.
She's really scared about her eyesight.
when she looks in the mirror after going to the bathroom, she gets really tearful and she cries. And I'm very thankful that she at least has one eye, because at least she can see her kids, grow up. Her grandkids get older.
She says Leela can walk with assistance, but is not able to talk clearly because her jaw is tied shut because doctors want to limit the movement of her jaw following the surgery.
Psychologically, she's questioning, why did this happen to her? Like, what she did to deserve this? Why did it have to be her? She's questioning that. She's really sad about her eyesight. She doesn't know what her future looks like.
Wednesday's court hearing focused on one thing: competency. Defense attorney Scott Simmons told me a mental health evaluation has already been done on 33-year-old Stephen Scantlebury, and that a second opinion is coming.
Today was a court date based off competency, so in order for a defendant to be deemed fit for trial, they have to be competent. If you're not competent, you can't sit forward for trial. So today we asked for a second doctor to be appointed to evaluate him for competency.
Scantlebury is facing attempted second-degree murder charges with a hate crime enhancement, accused of beating Palms West nurse Leelama Lal and nearly breaking every bone in her face. With that first doctor finding Scantlebury competent, the case is now on track for trial. The defense has filed a notice to use an insanity defense, but that would be argued in front of a jury during trial, not beforehand.
Competency has to play out. If he's found competent, we will proceed with our defense. If he's found incompetent, we will continue going through the mental health court.
Leelama Lal is now finally returning home this weekend. The 67-year-old nurse has been through a lot. She spent months in recovering after a brutal attack inside HCA Florida Palms West Hospital back in February. The suspect in this case, 33-year-old Stephen Scantlebury, was in the hospital under a Baker Act at the time when he attacked Lal, according to officials. He's now facing attempted second-degree murder charges with a hate crime enhancement and remains in custody at the Palm Beach County Jail. He's awaiting a second mental health evaluation after the first one found him competent to stand trial.